There was a time when my house used to be full of laughter. When my grandkids were little, they would run through my kitchen, tracking in mud from the backyard, giggling as they hid behind the furniture during our endless games of hide and seek. They used to beg to stay the night, curling up beside me as I read them stories until their little eyes fluttered shut. But somewhere along the way, they grew up. And I started to feel like a stranger in their lives. It didn't happen all at once. First, it was the after-school activities, soccer games, dance recitals, birthday parties with friends. Then it was the new phones, the endless texting, the way their eyes barely lifted from the screens when I visited. Then one day it hit me. They had stopped coming over altogether. Left behind. I didn't blame them. My daughter Sarah always assured me it wasn't personal. "Mom, they're just busy," she'd say, brushing it off like it was nothing. Teenagers have their own lives. But it wasn't nothing to me. It was everything. I had spent years dreaming of what it would be like to be a grandmother. I had pictured family dinners, holiday traditions, long summers, where the grandkids would come stay with me just because they wanted to. Instead, I was met with empty chairs at my table. Every invitation I extended was met with, "Maybe next time, Grandma." And next time never came. It broke my heart. But more than that, it made me realize that I needed to do something before I lost them completely. The big idea. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset, a memory from my childhood surfaced: road trips with my parents. I remembered the thrill of packing up the car, my dad studying the maps, my mom making sandwiches for the road. I remembered the adventure, the excitement, the feeling of togetherness. And that's when it hit me. Maybe the reason my grandkids weren't visiting wasn't because they didn't love me anymore. Maybe they just needed a reason to want to. The very next day, I drove down to an RV dealership. It was the craziest thing I'd ever done. The salesman probably thought I was just browsing, but I looked him right in the eye and said, "I want something big, something that can fit my grandkids." And oh, did I find it? A beautiful, gleaming Class A motorhome with plush seats, a full kitchen, bunk beds, and even a TV inside. I ran my hands over the steering wheel, picturing it already: me, my grandkids, the open road. I signed the papers that very day, and then I sent a text to the family group chat: "Grandma just bought an RV. Who's up for the road trip of a lifetime?" For the first time in years, I saw my grandkids' names light up my phone. Wait, what? An RV? Like a real one? No way. Where are we going? I couldn't help but smile. I had their attention, and this was just the beginning. When I first sent that text about the RV, I didn't expect much. I figured my grandkids might laugh, maybe ask a few questions, and then go right back to their busy lives. But within minutes, my phone exploded with messages. "Wait, Grandma, you seriously bought an RV? Like a real one? Not a camper, but an actual house on wheels? Okay, this is kind of cool. Where are we going?" I could barely type fast enough to keep up. "Anywhere we want," I replied, "but only if you all come with me." And that's when I saw the magic happen. The kids, who had been too busy, too distracted, too disinterested in spending time with me, were suddenly excited. It was the first time in years that I felt like I had their full attention. I called my daughter Sarah later that night. "You're really doing this," she said, half laughing, half in disbelief. "I sure am," I replied. "And I want to take them for a few weeks this summer. Just us, no distractions." Sarah hesitated. "Mom, are you sure? I mean, they're teenagers. You might regret being trapped in a moving box with them for that long." I grinned. "Oh, I think I can handle them." In truth, I wasn't worried about them at all. I was worried about me. Would I be able to keep up with their energy? Would they get bored of me after a few days? Would they still spend more time on their phones than actually talking to me? I shook off the doubts. This was my chance. I had to take it. So I told Sarah the plan. A 2-week road trip across the country, hitting national parks, amusement parks, scenic highways, and every silly roadside attraction we could find. To my surprise, she agreed. "All right," she said, "let's see if they actually commit." I didn't have to wait long. That night, my grandson Ethan texted, "Grandma, this sounds kind of epic. Count me in." Then Olivia, my oldest granddaughter, "I'll go too, but can we stop at a beach somewhere?" And just like that, the trip was real. When the day finally arrived, I pulled up to Sarah's house in my brand new gleaming RV. And the grandkids? They lost their minds. No way, Ethan shouted, running up to it. This is insane! Oh my gosh, Grandma, it's huge, Olivia added, peeking inside. It has a kitchen and a TV. Wait, are these bunk beds? I laughed at their reactions, feeling a spark of pure joy. My youngest grandson, Noah, climbed into the driver's seat and grinned at me. Can I drive? Not unless you want your mother to ground me for life, I said, ruffling his hair. Sarah stood on the porch, arms crossed, shaking her head. I still can't believe you're doing this. Believe it, I said with a wink. One by one, the kids climbed aboard, dragging duffel bags, snacks, and more chargers than I thought humanly necessary. I turned the key, the engine roared to life, and I shouted, "Let's hit the road." And just like that, we were off. First stop, disaster. I had dreamed of this moment, the open road, music playing, my grandkids laughing and talking as we drove. But reality? Well, let's just say reality had other plans. 1 hour in, Ethan spilled an entire bottle of soda on the carpet. Olivia realized she forgot her hair straightener and acted like it was the end of the world. Noah kept pressing every button on the dashboard, nearly turning on the windshield wipers in the middle of a sunny day. And at some point, I heard Ethan groan, "Are we there yet?" We hadn't even left the state. I took a deep breath, gripping the steering wheel. I can do this. Then I saw the sign for our first stop, a roadside attraction called The World's Biggest Ball of Yarn. I grinned. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right, kids, I announced. Who's ready for our first adventure? They groaned at first, but they had no idea what was coming. When I pulled into the parking lot of The World's Biggest Ball of Yarn, the reactions were exactly what I expected. Groans, eye rolls, dramatic sighs. Grandma, Olivia whined, peering out the window. This is so lame. Ethan leaned back in his seat. Who even cares about a giant ball of yarn? Noah, the youngest, stared at it in confusion. Why would anyone make this? Oh, come on, I said, hopping out of the RV. You mean to tell me you're not the least bit curious? They grumbled, but when I started walking toward the entrance, they followed. That was the rule of the road trip. If I picked a stop, we all had to get out, no complaints. The closer we got, the more intrigued they became. Ethan snickered. Okay, it is kind of weird looking. Olivia pulled out her phone. I guess I should take a pic for Instagram. Trapped on a road trip with my grandma? Send help. I playfully nudged her. Make sure you tag me in it. By the time we made it inside the small gift shop, the kids were actually engaged. Noah started asking the museum guide a million questions. Olivia and Ethan found ridiculous yarn-themed souvenirs, a neon-colored beanie and a t-shirt that said, "This trip is unraveling me." And when they realized there was a challenge to find the oldest strand of yarn buried inside the ball, suddenly it became a competition. Ethan and Olivia were digging through layers, arguing over who found the coolest piece. Noah kept trying to get a closer look, and just like that, they forgot they were too cool for this. They forgot they were on a trip with their grandma. They were just having fun. For the first time in years, I felt like I was watching my grandkids be kids again. A surprise detour. That night, we parked the RV at a campground near a lake. I have a surprise, I announced as we stepped outside. We're making s'mores. Noah cheered. Olivia seemed reluctant until I pulled out chocolate bars stuffed with caramel. Then she was all in. We sat around the crackling fire, the night air crisp and cool. For a while, it was just quiet, the good kind. Then, out of nowhere, Ethan smirked. Grandma, what's the craziest thing you've ever done? He asked, sticking a marshmallow into the flames. I laughed. You'll have to be more specific. No, Olivia chimed in, like something wild, something we wouldn't expect. I tapped my chin. Well, there was that time I snuck backstage at a Rolling Stones concert. 3 heads whipped around. Wait, what? Ethan nearly dropped his marshmallow. You went to a Rolling Stones concert? Olivia gasped. I grinned. Oh, honey, I did more than that. I talked my way backstage, met Mick Jagger, and got him to sign a napkin, which I then lost. Noah's jaw dropped. You met Mick Jagger? We burst into laughter, the kind that makes your stomach hurt. And as I looked around at my grandkids, completely engaged, hanging on to every word, I realized something. This trip was working. They weren't staring at their phones. They weren't waiting for it to be over. They were here with me in this moment, and I had never felt more alive. The moment that changed everything. Later that night, I was settling into bed when I heard a quiet knock on my door. Grandma, it was Olivia. I sat up. What is it, sweetheart? She hesitated for a second, then stepped inside. I wanted to say thanks, she said softly, for this trip, for all of this. My heart swelled. I know I was kind of a brat about it at first, she admitted. I guess I just thought, I don't know, that I'd be bored, that it'd be weird, but I'm actually having fun. I smiled. Me too. She bit her lip. Do you think we could stop at a beach before we head back? I reached over and squeezed her hand. You bet we can. Because this trip, it wasn't just about me wanting to spend time with them. It was about giving them something to remember. And I had a feeling they'd never forget it. The morning we were supposed to start heading home, I woke up early and made pancakes in the RV kitchen. Blueberry for Olivia, chocolate chip for Noah, plain for Ethan, just the way he liked them. The smell must have woken them up because soon they were all sitting at the tiny RV table, groggy but hungry. Okay, I said, sliding a plate in front of Olivia. Since this is our last full day, we have one final stop. Ethan stretched, yawning. Oh, great, what now? The world's biggest paperclip? Noah giggled. I grinned. Nope, you guys wanted something fun, so I made a detour. Olivia perked up. Wait, where are we going? I just winked. When I pulled into the parking lot, 3 jaws dropped. No way, Olivia breathed, staring at the ocean. Ethan practically bolted out of the RV. You took us to the beach? Noah clapped his hands. Grandma, you're the best. I laughed as they ran toward the waves, shoes forgotten in the sand. I had always wanted to bring them to the beach, but there was always an excuse. Too much schoolwork, too many sports, too busy. Now here we were, together. Olivia and I sat on a big blanket, toes buried in the warm sand. For the first time, she wasn't glued to her phone. Instead, she was just watching the waves, soaking it in. It's so peaceful, she murmured. I nodded. I used to come here when I was younger. It was always my favorite place to think. She turned to me. Why did you stop coming? I sighed. Life got busy. Work, responsibilities. You know how it is. She studied me for a moment, then said something that nearly broke me. I think you should come back here more, even when we're not with you. Tears pricked my eyes. Because this was Olivia, the granddaughter who used to roll her eyes at everything I said. And here she was, looking out for me. I squeezed her hand. I think you're right. That night, we parked at a quiet campsite where the sky was so clear you could see every star. Ethan and Noah were lying on the ground, pointing out constellations, while Olivia sat beside me on the RV steps. We should do this again, she said suddenly. I turned to her. What? She shrugged, playing with a loose thread on her sweater. This trip. It was fun. I mean, yeah, I complained at first, but I don't know. It was nice spending time with you. I bit my lip. Are you saying you actually enjoyed hanging out with your grandma? I teased. She laughed, maybe a little. Ethan sat up. Actually, yeah, we should do this again. Noah popped his head up. But next time, we should go to an amusement park. I chuckled. You're already planning the next trip? Noah nodded eagerly. Olivia smirked. Careful, Grandma. You're becoming cool. I let out a warm, full laugh, because this moment under the stars with my grandkids beside me was exactly what I had hoped for. They weren't rushing to go home. They weren't begging to be on their phones. They were here with me fully present, and that was the greatest gift of all. When we finally pulled back into their driveway the next day, I half expected them to bolt inside without a second glance. Instead, they lingered. Noah hugged me tight. Best trip ever, Grandma. Ethan high-fived me. We're doing this again, right? Olivia smirked. Yeah, but next time, I get to pick some of the stops. I smiled. Deal. As they headed inside, Olivia turned back one last time. Hey, Grandma? Yes, sweetheart? She hesitated, then grinned. Text me when you start planning the next one. I watched them disappear into the house, my heart so full it could burst. They had come back from this trip different, more connected, more present, more mine. And I had come back happier than I had been in years. Because this wasn't just a road trip. It was the start of something beautiful.